Imagine you get up at 6 a.m, brush your teeth, make breakfast, get on the train to work. On the way you check your phone to read up on some news, another rate rise by the RBA. What is this guy even doing? You scroll some more, see some more fears of a recession, you get to work, manager tells you times are getting tough and we are going to have to lay off some people, but just know that your contributions to the firm have not gone unnoticed. We are grateful to have each and every single one of you, and no matter where you go, we will always be family. You finish up work, commute home, read up on some more news, 12,000 Google workers to be laid off, 18,000 Amazon workers to be gone, 10K Microsoft workers to be gone. Get home, check the letterbox before you go in, a letter from your bank. So my repayments are going up again, extra $121 per month. I know a lot of people are having it tough right now. It is getting way too costly to even live these days. If you're a homeowner, your interest rate has probably doubled. If you're a renter, your rent has probably gone up. Groceries and other necessities up. A lot of people don't have savings to cover a one-off emergency. There's fears of layoffs and cost cutting going on, a potential recession, which we all keep hearing about. So yeah, look, times are not the most optimistic right now. People want to live a prosperous and confident life, as they should. They want a lifestyle that is balanced and keeps them financially stable. But in this climate, it is basically a pipe dream because of everything that's happening right now. And the scary part is that if things keep going the way they are, some people are going to get stuck behind. They will be retiring with little savings in their super, and if things don't change, unfortunately their kids will be bearing the cost of that in the future. Now, this is a very complex issue with so many different parts to it. There is no blanket solution that we can just give to people and it'll solve everything. There are things that people themselves need to be doing. There are things that the government certainly needs to be doing as well, and things that need to change in this overall system that we live in for things to get better. But in this video, I want to focus on one specific issue: the access to quality financial advice. How many adult Aussies do you think have actually gotten financial advice? What percentage? 5%, 10%, 20, 30, or higher? Only 16% of Australians have actually gotten financial advice. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this, but cost is one of the biggest reasons, and the cost to get financial advice has actually been rising every single year. Thousands and thousands of financial advisors are quitting the industry, obviously driving costs up, and the median cost to get financial advice in Australia is around $3,500, which has jumped 8% from the previous year. Think about that for a sec. $3,500 to get financial advice. It's a lot. And a lot of financial advisors will tell you that it's completely worth it because the advice you'll be getting will be tailored, it's personal, and obviously the person giving it is fully licensed and it's coming from a qualified professional. And yeah, look, it is worth it in a lot of cases. But for a normal household who's going through everything I mentioned previously, how the hell are they going to justify paying $3,500 to get financial advice when they might need that money for a, some emergency that could come up in the future? They are not able to justify such a massive cost, especially when they barely have any money in savings. The irony is that these people, these households, are the ones that need it the most, but they are the ones that simply cannot afford it. I'm very confident that if financial advice was more affordable, we would see more families actually going out, getting financial advice and trying to at least improve their financial circumstances and their situation. They would have a roadmap, they would have a plan to put in place where they can slowly start to improve the situation and set goals, but we can't have that because it's just way too costly. In fact, a survey done says that 40% of people think that the cost of financial advice is too much. So what does this lead to? It leads to people going to social media, trying to get information from social media content creators on YouTube, to Instagram, to TikTok, to podcasts, and so on, from even people like me. Now, the Australian Securities Investment Commission, or ASIC, who's in charge of regulating financial advice in Australia, doesn't really like this. They obviously don't like the fact that social media content creators who don't have a financial license are out here making videos and content in Australia trying to influence the general public when it comes to finances. In fact, they put out some clarifications last year directly targeted at social media people, and they gave some examples as well, which I really appreciate. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely some very bad actors out there, people that are creating content for the sole purpose of scamming others, and that is definitely not okay, and this needs to be cracked down on for sure. But I think overall, as a whole, we are trying to do the right thing. I think most content you see online is made for the purpose of educating others and really trying to uplift financial literacy in Australia. Because all of us know that financial advice and financial literacy levels are so low in Australia that it's better to create this type of content to encourage others to get interested in it, to normalize the conversation, and so on and so on. This stuff is pretty serious. I got invited to an online meeting by ASIC themselves, and once I saw the email come in, it was just so daunting, and I thought I was in trouble, and I was super scared. But turned out it was only an online meeting to discuss the clarifications that they put out, and lots of other financial content creators that you may know about and watch were there as well. And the whole point of that online meeting was to make sure that we understand what's happening and to make sure that we just get it. Myself and a lot of other social media creators told ASIC the fact that if you're going to stop us from creating financial content in Australia, then that is basically a net loss to the Australian community as a whole. Because if we're out of the picture, what other avenues does the general Aussie have to get information about finances, right? Because they can't go and seek proper financial advice because things are way too expensive. So what can they really do? And ASIC mentioned that they are working on it. They are trying to make this space a much better space, and they're trying to obviously fix some of the issues in the financial advice realm. But it is obviously a work in progress. It's not going to be solved overnight. So that is really all I know at the moment. But for the rest of us content creators, if we are going to continue making financial content in Australia, it is a very good idea to get licensed, which means getting a proper Australian financial license, or risk being potentially jailed or fined. So yeah, look, it is pretty serious. So why don't we get licensed? Well, the fact that just to get licensed can cost you tens of thousands of dollars a year just to maintain, and that is simply too much for someone who is just sitting at home or whatever, just trying to create content. It is just going to shut them out completely. Like for myself, it is something that I could technically afford, but it would be such a huge drain that it just would not make this whole thing viable, so I would just stop completely. You may have noticed that over the past year or so, financial investing content in Australia has become fairly basic. It's become watered down. All your favorite content creators may have changed the things that they talk about just to navigate this issue. And that is something which I've been doing as well. This channel in the past was very big on talking about stocks and ETFs and analyzing everything and, you know, going into the financials and whatnot, but no more. But let's put all that aside. What can people actually do about this issue? Now, as you guys know, I always preach self-education with the top finance books, podcasts, even the Money Smart website, etc., etc. But one thing I haven't mentioned before is that we as the public have the power to keep our politicians accountable. I'm not saying we have direct access to the men at the top, but what I am saying is that we do have access to our local MPs who have been elected to serve us. There's nothing stopping us from going to their office or even writing them a letter, letting them know that this is a huge issue that needs to be solved. We can even reach out to ASIC on their own portal online. If enough people raise a concern, I'm confident that something can come out of it. But of course, there are other issues that always seem to take up more space, but I would argue that personal finance and investing is just as important, and it's still worth trying nonetheless. Fixing this issue will not solve things immediately, but over time things will get better because people will have tailored financial advice. They will have a financial roadmap to work toward. We'll have solid habits that we can then pass on to our kids, and so on and so on. This is definitely a huge step towards the long-term planning of our country, and it is something which is not going to be solved in just one generation, but it is a step in the right direction. Let me know your thoughts.